Welcome back to our study on the Intertestament period, the countdown to Messiah. And this is Dick Baker, your teacher. These lessons that you're listening to have been taught live to an adult Bible class on Sunday mornings. And we are already to the Roman Empire. So before we get into the actual lesson itself, we have been having insights into whatever empire that was, and just gives us a good indicator of some background of who the people were, and not what we know or that we think we know. So let's get right into this. The ancient Roman civilization started on the Italian peninsula during the 8th century before Christ. Founded in 753 BC by its first king, Romulus, it grew into a rich and powerful city during the next few hundred years. By 117 AD, after Christ, the Roman Empire included the whole of Italy, all the lands around the Mediterranean, much of Europe, including England, Wales, and parts of Scotland. And here is a good map of that time. Notice they also had land in Africa, as of course the Middle East. The Roman Empire was not the largest empire in history. In fact, it only ranks 28th as the largest of all time. Life expectancy in ancient Rome was just 20 to 30 years. When Julius Caesar died, he left today's equivalent of about $270 to each and every Roman citizen. The Romans didn't spend all their time fighting, and that's what we think as their fighting forces and their governance. But the Romans were right up there. They were builders. They were incredible builders. They were always building something. The Colosseum. Museums. Meeting places. This is an artist's concept of just Roman Empire in ruins, and that's what did happen. But about any city we go to visit that's in the Bible, like the 7 churches of Revelation, you can go and you will find ruins of the ancient city, but you will also see roads everywhere. And the Romans built roads. They improved on the ones from the previous empires. In this case, the average Roman road, the width of it was 20 feet. And if you look at that, you can pretty well in your mind see, yeah, that's about 20 feet wide. When coming into town, they would make them straight. People would build and could build on each side of them, but oftentimes they would put columns, as we do see on this one, in which this would be a victor's promenade home. They'd set these up when armies were victorious, and they would be coming back for some rest and then go back out again. And this is a picture of the Roman Empire at the height of their best, and all of those lines are the roads that they built. They built them all throughout the empire. Now, I've had this map for several years, and these roads were found, in the 1920s, like 100 years ago for us, and they were starting to materialize, finding other ones, not just the main ones that were visible, but they'd dig around a little bit. Now, what happened in 2025, which was last year, they used satellite infrared. They used the technology to try to find the roads that they've missed. And this is what came back. What is in red is what they discovered. What is in the brown, the sort of like a silhouette back there, was what you were just looking at before I flipped. It is massive what they had accomplished and what they had done worldwide. They were great on aqueducts. Some are still in use, not this one. But they would tier them because they would bring water perhaps on 3 levels, and even on one level they may have 3 troughs of water flowing, because eventually the water flow would veer off, and an aqueduct was built to go a different direction, a different country. This is interesting. There's a surviving fantasy novel written in the 2nd century after Christ in Roman Syria. Right? Keep in mind, here's sci-fi, and it features explorers flying to the moon. It also highlights a first encounter with aliens, an interplanetary war between imperialistic celestial kingdoms, and the discovery of a continent across the ocean. And they found these things written, not just a novel, not in writings, but they saw artwork up on walls. And this would be the alien invasion. And if they're coming in spaceships, they pretty well can only fit 1 in each one of them, or 2 at the most, it appears. But that wasn't the important thing, that they were thinking. And so here's some art, some concept art of the same thing. And we're back to normal here. So take a good look at this one, because now the print is over at this. The sewer goddess, Cloacina, was borrowed from the Etruscan mythology and was seen as the protectress of the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's sewage system. So how do you like to be that? They had gods and goddesses for almost everything, including the sewage systems. She later merged with the better-known Roman goddess Venus and was worshipped at the shrine of Venus, Cloacina, in the Roman Forum. So you can see her statue there if you go visit that. Tunics, 2 pieces of wool and fabric sewn together at the sides and shoulders, with openings for arms and head, were the most common clothes in Rome. Some Romans also wore togas, a kind of woolen shawl, to show how wealthy they were. And here are some pictures of some of that, some of the clothing of the togas and how they would wear them. Does this look familiar? Yes, it's a Roman coin, but what does that look like to you? Well, the fact is that Labor Liberty was inspired by the pagan goddess Libertas. And, of course, we have our Liberty dime that came from that concept from the Roman coin. Trajan's Market, the Roman Mall, is a large complex of ruins in the city of Rome, Italy, located at the opposite end to the Colosseum. So if you ever go visit the Colosseum, your guide will take you to Trajan's Market. The arcades in Trajan's Market are now believed to be by many to be administrative offices for Emperor Trajan. The shops and apartments were built in a multi-level structure, and it is still possible to visit several levels, and you can do that. In ancient Rome, Julius Caesar was pronounced as Julius Caesar. So Julius Caesar. And I thought that interesting that we would add that to this. Roman Emperor Antonius Pius had the most peaceful reign of any ruler in antiquity. Notice the word pious tends to mean religious, holy, a person of truth. And there's no record of any major events or conflicts during his 23-year reign. He was a skilled administrator and was praised by his contemporaries for his effective style of governance. He was a Caesar for the people, and he'd get out and walk among them. And then the flip side is the Roman Emperor Caligula was told that he had no more chance of becoming emperor than of riding a horse across the Bay of Baiae. And so what did he do? He built a 2-mile temporary floating bridge and walked his horse across. And Caligula was the worst, most vile, most evil, the most murderous Caesar that Rome ever had. When the Romans returned from France and Germany with blonde slaves, some Roman women tried copying the look by dyeing their hair blonde, only for it to fall out. So instead, the women cut off the slaves' hair and made wigs out of it. The Roman Pantheon, built in 118 AD, is still the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. You can see the dome on top of the building. In the Roman Empire, if people wished to commit suicide, they applied to the Senate, and if their petitions were approved, were given free hemlock. A Roman legionary was trained often by regular marching for 18 miles in 5 hours, and then speed marching for 21 miles in 5 hours in a single day, all the while carrying a backpack of 45 pounds and armor of 20 pounds. The word cereal comes from the Roman god Ceres and her association with edible grains. So she was a goddess over the grains. Romans used to call Christians atheists because they didn't pay tribute to their gods. That's an interesting flip, isn't it? Since Atticus, a man was twice given nearly absolute authority over the Roman Empire, and he twice gave it up. And I know why. Because they said they'd name a city after him in Ohio. The yin and yang, a symbol, was actually a shield design from the late Roman army and predates Taoists by 700 years. So who thought this up first? In the Roman Empire, apartment buildings were common and could be up to 9 stories high. While the upper stories were more cramped and rent was less expensive, the lower floors were more spacious and could have running water, lavatories, and heating. This gives you a good look at them. Be very solid on the bottom. Do you notice they use mud brick and wood as they go up from there? And so with that, I want to thank you for watching and tuning in just to this short video. And our next video that will follow this will be on the Roman Empire, and as we fill in the intertestament period, the 400 missing years. Thank you. God bless you, and I'll see you for the next lesson.